Good evening. Bonsoir, Paris. Welcome. I'm honored to open the second event of this Ecstatic Poetry Place International Festival, celebrating the International Poetry Day, which was 2 days ago. My name is Gilad Meiri, and I'm part of the literary committee of the festival with Atar Ben Hanan. Say hello, Atar. And Noah Shakarji. Yeah. And I'm happy to introduce Rotem Atar, who is an award-winning translator. And Rotem will host this show, and she will shortly present Battal. But before that, some technical issues. Your microphone will be muted during the event, but we may dedicate the last few minutes to your questions. So you may write them down in the chat box. And now I'm happy to pass the microphone to you, Rotem, and let's have an enjoyable evening.
Thank you, Gilad. So welcome everyone. I'm very happy to be here and to take part of this festival. And I'm happy to see that there are so many people that come in spite of elections, in spite of the weather, in spite of everything that sometimes prevents us from being where we want to be. So I'm very, very happy to host here tonight and to welcome Battal. And Rim is a poet, an artist, and a journalist. She was born in Casablanca in 1987, and she lives and works in Paris since 2013. And Rim has published 5 books since 2015, which is an accomplishment, 5 books. It's very impressive. And the last one was just published, right? Like a month or 2 months ago, the last one?
Oh, yes, on February.
On February. And so this is the book that we are going to talk about today, and we will read some poems, and we will have a glimpse to the book. But also I will say that I'm very happy to have you here tonight because we know so little or almost nothing at all about the world of French contemporary poetry today. So this meeting with you is also an opportunity for us to see your poetry, which I know is a very strong voice of the contemporary French poetry, and to have a glimpse also to what happens in France today. So welcome.
Thank you, Rotem, for inviting me. Yes, I think I can start by reading some poems from my last book, Les Quatrains de l'All Inclusive, published at Le Castor Astral, which is an amazing poetry publishing house. It's one of the oldest contemporary publishing house. It's been active since 40 years. So yes, I'm going to read.
Just maybe before you read the first poem, the photograph on the book is yours also, right? You're a photographer.
Yes, I'm a photographer and also performer, and that was like my last photography series. And in the book, you can find some drawings from a French artist called Sarah Battaglia. But and I wanted one of the drawings on the cover, but the l'éditeur, the publisher, came to my exhibition, and he loved that picture, and he said, "This will perfectly match with the poems. I want this on the cover." And I did not agree, 100%, but I thought maybe I can, just let him do his job.
Okay. And first about the title, before we read the first poem, as you can see, Le Quatre de all-inclusive, it's a mix of French and English, and I guess the audience know this expression, all-inclusive, הכל כלול, בעברית, and have certain idea or thought about what this book can be about. And actually the book deals with a very, maybe I can say, major tradition in the French culture, which is les vacances, which is also, I think most people know this word, even though it's in French, because it's very hard to translate, because vacances, we can say holiday, we can say חופשה in Hebrew, but it doesn't really capture the true meaning of vacances for the French people, which is not only taking a break or taking time away, it's a true state of mind. So maybe you can tell us about the conditions in which you wrote the book, and a bit about the book before we read the first poem.
Okay. I wrote this book while being en vacances en Sardaigne in Italy, in a club, what we call all-inclusive clubs. You know, this like Club Med or something like that. It's like a place where you go and you can just, there are like a buffet if you need to eat, and you can just pick whatever you want, whatever you wish, and the quantities you want, and then like eat and get up and leave it like this, you know, not even clean or anything. And then you have this bracelet, how do you
bracelet?
Yeah, bracelet. That allows you to get drinks like cocktails or have like snacks, go wherever you want in the club, you know, like and there are like some people working there called les gentils organisateurs, like the kind organizers, and they are at your service, you know. They like try to make you have fun, make you forget about your like normal life, so you can relax 100%. And it's if you describe it like this, it sounds like some paradise or something, you know, after a year of like job and working all the time, and you like cleaning your house yourself, and you know, getting like doing the shopping and all this like boring stuff. It sounds like paradise, but actually it's quite horrible. It's so I spent my holidays there with my kids, and which was like very cool, because so I could write, because my kids were like en sécurité. I had not to clean anything or to take care about anything, so I had my head, you know, tout à fait disponible, like
free of
my mind was free of these you know, consideration. So I could write, but since my head was like free and fresh, I started like watching all this, you know, all the dispositif, and seeing the why it was that horrible, and see the rapport de pouvoir, like the power dominance you can have, and the hierarchy between people in the club, how also my body was changing, how I am being a mother also, thinking about what is being a parent, because it's like something really cool, but it's also a tyranny, an everyday tyranny that we live in without thinking about it like specifically. So in the beginning I started like taking notes as usual, but then at some point I had this form of 4, which is not a really quatrain. I don't know if, yeah, it's like...
Maybe now is a good time to read the first poem, and then
Yes,
everyone could understand what a quatrain is.
Okay. Premier quatrain de l'All Inclusive. Vu le bois de mon aisselle sur une photographie envoyée par mail, ma mère me somme de contraindre la nature encore en ce lieu délicat de correspondre. Il est vrai que ne figure pas sur le menu de la formule all-inclusive une récréation sans les mers, autrement, on s'y bousculerait davantage. Le persil qui dépasse du panier n'a pas la meilleure des presses. Pourtant, le panier est de bon goût et le persil entretenu aux huiles essentielles.
Okay, so we will read the Hebrew now, and hopefully someone that is drawing will disappear. אפשר לחזור désolé.
There's still the fourth part, which is face à la piscine, jambes écartées, mine de rien.
Désolé, Rim. So we will read the Hebrew now. למראה יער השחי שלי, בתמונה שנשלחה במייל. אמי מורה לי לרסן את הטבע במקום העדין הזה של ההלימה. I will do the same, I don't know. בתפריט העסקי הכל כלול, חוץ מחופשה נטולת אמהות, שאם לא כן היה פה מלא מפה אל פה. לצרור הפטרוזיליה שמבצבץ מהסל אין מוניטין מפואר, אבל הסל נראה לא רע, והפטרוזיליה טופחה בתמציות שמנים. מול הבריכה, רגליים מפוסקות כמו כלום. So let's start really, yes, like you said, talking about the form of the poems. You called the book Le Cantra, and I will explain to the audience that Cantra is a stanza of 4 lines. But as we can see in this poem, all the poems in the book are actually composed by 4 stanzas, which are not always have 4 lines. So it's not exactly the classical form. So I want to ask you, why did you choose this form, which is maybe a bit restrictive when you talk about a subject such as vacation?
I started this form because the first poem I wrote was in 4 parts, and then I thought that this like cutting the poems in 4 parts can allows me to picture many stuff I want to put in the same poems, and then if you look at them first, they don't have anything to do with each other. But then if I put this like 4 parts and like with the numbers and stuff, they, you know, it's like I don't know how you call that. It's like in photography when you put like 2 pictures with like a diptych or triptych, and then it makes sense when you see the group, oh my god. all of them together. You have this other picture. If you see the details, if you watch the details, you will see something. And then when you see all of them like gathered, you can understand like the whole picture. And I called them les quatrains because I could just like call them something else or not call them at all. But I really like to, I don't know how it is in Jerusalem, but here in France, like people are very academic and attached to the, you know, the rules. And so they really...
This is not Israel, not Jerusalem and not Israel.
Really, like in France, like people that can really get mad if you if you play with the rules, especially in poetry. It's really something like sacred or something. So I thought, it's going to make like so many people angry. I'm going to do that. So just to make them think about the lines and what you can cross or not, and how actually every line is crossable. So I took this form and this name and put it on that new form. And the last poem in the book is just la structure.
The structure.
Yeah, it's only the structure of the poems, so people can feel it actually. So I'm inviting other people to, you know, take this form and maybe experience it and try to write in that.
Interesting. And there are 22 poems because you were on vacation. It's like a poem by day, or is there a reason?
No, because actually it was not very conscious, I think. But at that point, that summer, I was also learning to read the tarot de Marseille, you know, like the cards. And there are like 22 cards. So when it's, you know, I thought about it like later when I finished the book. I thought, maybe that was what influenced it, and I think it is. But there is no special meaning in that one.
And I think this first poem shows right from the start some of the subjects that interested you in your poetry in general and also in this book. And the first one is maybe, I would say, the contradiction between the human body and nature, or the question if the human body is natural, is it part of nature, and maybe what is natural or artificial.
Yes, and so in this first poem, I use some plants names to call the body hair, because also I like to laugh in my poems actually. So there is a lot of humor, and I don't know when you translate if it's something that shows or not. For example,
it was a challenge.
Yeah, I know. Like I think I can't be a translator because like translating humor must be like the most difficult thing on earth. No, I don't know.
It's a challenge, yeah. But I think the game between the natural or not natural things at the human body that you did in your poetry, I hope it was seen. I hope.
Okay. Yes. So in that first poem, what I try to say is I'm talking about the body hair. When I, for example, I send this picture of myself next to the pool, you know, and to my mom to share this, you know, relaxing time with her. And all what she could say is like, you have to shave your hair, you know. So it was really funny. So that's why I like this, like why are people are chasing nature in their body all the time, you know. I'm saying that while putting like shitloads of makeup, but I like makeup. So the correspondre, when I say also the correspondre, it's like a double meaning. It's correspondre, la correspondance means like sending each other emails, And also the correspond, it's like to be like what people, expect from you.
Yes.
And what people expect from you is to be a human being. And what is a human being? A human being is not an animal. So you have to like chase everything in your body that makes us like think of an animal in your way of like taking care of yourself and shaving, talking, the way you eat. So yes, there's this thematic that's will also that I explore in other poems as well later in that same book. And also when I say le persil qui dépasse du panier, it's an expression in French. It means le persil qui dépasse du panier. Le persil is le panier.
Roselia, אני אגיד in Hebrew.
Like the maillot, the swimming suits. The persil qui dépasse du panier means like your hair. We can see your hair, from your swimming suit. And also face à la piscine, jambes écartées, mine de rien. It's also it's an expression that means like doing as if there was nothing, but also in mine, it's like a mine. It means the same in English, a mine, but a mine of nothing, like when you open your leg, there's a mine, but a mine of... Voilà.
So let's read the second poem.
Deuxième quatrain de l'All Inclusive. Qui, du maître ou de l'esclave, vit plus longtemps, vit plus heureux, vit plus vaillant. L'esclave connaît mieux le repos, le soleil et le contentement. Le maître est un mystère. Le bronzage est-il beau parce qu'il rappelle le travail dans le champ et le coude et le bois coupé, ou pour ce qu'il figure du repos sans fin et de l'oisiveté du maître, ainsi qu'on l'imagine. Mon bronzage et ma levée de bouclier. J'infuse dans l'eau, je bulle, mesure mon souffle, j'oublie que pour quelques cocktails, j'accepte un bracelet électronique tout le séjour durant, là où mon pouls bat le plus fort. J'ai gardé de l'enfance le goût du poème, du dessin et le pipi dans la piscine, sans scrupule. Voilà tout ce que j'ai du maître, tel que je l'imagine.
Merci. And so we will read the Hebrew now. בין האדון לעבד, חייו של מי ארוכים יותר, חייו של מי מאושרים יותר, חייו של מי נועזים יותר. העבד מכיר היטב את מקור המנוחה, את השמש ונחת הרוח. האדון הוא חידה. הגוף השזוף יפה כי הוא מזכיר לנו עבודה בשדה, וזמרה ומרפק ופיסות עץ מנוסרות. או משום שהוא מייצג מנוחת עד, בטלת אדונים מדומיינת. עבורי השיזוף ופשיטת השריון. אני נמהלת במים, מבעבעת, מודדת נשימות ושוכחת. שבעבור כמה קוקטיילים אקבל צמיד אלקטרוני לכל תקופת הקיום הזו, שבה הפעימות שלי הולמות בכל הכוח. שמרתי מהילדות את הטעם של שיר, של ציור, של לעשות פיפי בבריכה, בלי רגשות אשם. זו העדנות שבי, כפי שנדמת לי עדנות. So Rim, I think in this poem we can sense already a more critical tone of yours. It's like the narrow universe of the hotel is divided into rulers and slaves, as you said before. And I think in reading your poetry, I can see it's both intimate and political at the same time. Can you tell us about this connection for you? Do you see a relationship between these two aspects of poetry?
Yes. When I started the poetry, I started like really, I felt like I was like talking about the body all the time, about love, and I you know, rejected it at some point because I wanted to go to something like more global, which is, but I think like more and more that déjà everything is political, you know, like how we dress, how we eat, what we eat, to whom we speak, and how we speak to others, how we make choices. So these are like very intimate aspects of life, but they can change everything, because if we all like make more conscious choices about like these very small things in a life, we can really change the aspect of the whole, you know, world we live in. And I for me, it's more évident, more obvious when we speak about feminism, for example, or ecology. You know, there where you can see like in a very concrete way that the l'intime is political. In that poem, for example, I thought, when I saw these people, like me, I'm part of these people in that club, I thought, yes, we all here are playing as if we were the masters, but in the rest of the year, we are the slaves, actually. We are here, we work, we produce des richesses, like goods, and then we consume these goods. So in order to like make the wealth, the master wealthier and wealthier. But who's the master, actually? We always think of like slaves and masters and servants, but if we can picture very easily the servants or slaves, it's very difficult to imagine the master. I don't know anything about the master, actually. Who are the masters? I never met a real master. Every, you know, period of my life where I thought, okay, I think that this guy is very like rich, or he has power, or political power, anything. Maybe that's what a master is. Maybe he's a master. And then I thought, I found out later that he was also like serving some other entity. So like the master is very abstract. So I don't know if there like masters exists. I think it's like a system, like we call master, but it's a system we live in and that maintain us in some force, rapport de pouvoir.
The power, the hierarchy of power.
Oui.
Yes.
Yes, so I think that we are totally responsible of our enslavement at some point, you know.
Yes, it's very suitable to our time now of the year in Israel, because we are just before the Pesach holiday, I don't know, Passover, I don't know if you know it, which is all about freedom and being free, and what does it mean, and if actually there is such a thing of being free. Does it exist? As you said, who is the master at all? And I really love the second stanza on this poem, which focuses on the look on the tanned body, the body that can belong both to the ruler and to the slave. And could you say something about that stanza and especially the last line?
I figured out that the aesthetics of great wealth and like very, very tough poverty match at some point, you know? If you go, for example, it's like caricatural, but if you go to like very, very expensive clothes, you know, brands and watch them, they look like where like 2 years ago, I used to live in a very, very poor neighborhood in France, and they dress the same actually. And I think that it's also about like aesthetic criteria of what is beauty as well. Before, when in Morocco, you had to look white, because if you looked white, you were beautiful, because white means that you don't work, that you don't need to work, that you have enough money in order to not, you know, like make any effort going out in the sun and, you know, doing hard work in the field or anything like that. And today it's like you have to be tanned because you have bone mean and you look, and also back in Morocco, you have to be like big, because if you were skinny, that means that you don't eat enough. And like here in France, people they starve themselves to be like skinny. So I was like ugly in Morocco, and now I'm like a beautiful girl because I'm skinny. So it's also like this, you know, l'ambivalence of the like beauty criteria. Like if it's like rich wants to look like poor and poor wants to look like rich, so it's at some point it's a bit embarrassing.
Okay, maybe before moving on to the next one, I wanted to ask you, I thought this will be a good moment to ask you about another project of yours, which is La Biennale Intime de Poésie, the intimate Biennale of Poetry, that you established, I think, in 2018?
Yes, I established it for one main reason, is that like I was invited to Biennale in France, International Biennale, among 50 other poets for the Night of Young Poetry. And they told us that we will be paid that much. And then like months ago, and then like 2 weeks before the Biennale takes place, they told us, okay, we don't have enough budget, so you will not be paid, and but you will come anyway. And they did not even ask us if we were okay with that or anything, you know, like if it was normal that poets will just come and work for free. So half of the poets decided not to go, and I was among them. And in order to protest about that, I told everyone that I'm going to like save some little amount of money every month, and then make like a biennale where the poets are the first ones that will be paid, and then we will see about the rest of it. Because when we asked this other biennale if like they were paid and if like the technicians and the staff were paid, and they said yes, like everyone was paid. Like the only ones that were not paid are the poets. So I started this.
Speaking about rulers and slaves.
Yeah. And the problem here is the organizers are poets as well. So I decided.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah, so I established that biennale and invited only 4 poets, because that was also the one of the points, is that instead of inviting like 50 poets, who can listen to 50 poets in a row, you know? Like at some point, it's like a catwalk of poems. You won't like remember anything. I will sleep, you know, after the 10th poet. I don't know. So I invited only 4 people, and like I introduced them like kings and queens, and you know, try to make it something that makes sense. And it was really cool, really. And in the public, there was not only the poetry public, but also people that are not used to poetry or who do not read poetry. And they really enjoyed it because I tried to mix more classical, formal poetry and to slowly go to more performative, even close to theater, stand-up poetry, and it worked very well.
Nice. Gilad, you wanted to say something?
Rotem asked me if I wanted to respond to the situation you just described, because the Poetry Place is really a leading power in Israel in everything that concerns the rights of poets. And we change things in Israel. And due to us, poets are being paid for readings, etc. And it's good to see that we have sisters and brothers in France that understand the deep meaning of poets that need to get paid for what they do. And the solidarity between poets is important to change the idea that poets are made of flesh and blood. We're not only spirit, and flesh and blood needs a bit of money to keep the spirit. So I just wanted to share this insight with you. Thank you.
Totally, yes, that's the spirit, like you say. I had a conversation lately with someone, and this person told me yes, and she was. I told her I was a poet, and she was talking about my passion, and I was like, no, it's my job. It's a job, you know, like a métier, because it's like any other métier. Actually, you need to have to work it. You need to train. You need to inform yourself, to document, if you want to be also available to do this or perform or read or do lectures and things like that, you need to have like time, and time is money. If you go to, I don't know, like 5 events in a month, it's like 2 hours where you won't be like working to get money from elsewhere. Yes, and I think yes, it's time that we take this more seriously, and starting from ourselves, we have to stand up to this. And I'm very happy to see that we are legend.
So let's move on and read another poem.
Cinquième quatrain de l'All Inclusive. Allongées à même le sol, mes filles observent des fourmis. Chaque fois qu'elles se penchent, je les vois pencher la tête sur moi. Par-dessus la montagne, leurs têtes sont des montagnes, leurs sourires prêts à fondre en morsure. Les fourmis s'inquiètent-elles de ces têtes qui s'en inquiètent? Elles entendent peut-être le tonnerre des yeux qui clignent et craignent comme moi l'orage à chaque inspiration. Les poux qui pleuvent sont le mouton à sacrifier. Un lion de laine blanche s'imprime sur ma peau, imperceptible à l'infini. Ses branches s'enlisent elles aussi au fond des poches de mon jean. Reprise à l'infini, des fleurs poussent sur mes joues, tant mes cheveux blanchissent. Que savent-elles de nos reins et nos foies? Si elles nous voient, que savent-elles de nos écritures et nos divisions, nos névroses et nos hormones, notre matière noire et nos communications? Que savent les fourmis de notre chair
Okay, so I will read the Hebrew. I will admit that this was the hardest to translate because it's both so visual, like you said, a photograph, but yet so abstract, and to combine the two was a challenge. הבנות שלי שכובות על החול, מסתכלות על הנמלים. בכל פעם שהן מרכינות את ראשן, הן נראות לי כרוכנות מעליי, מעל ההר. הראשים שלהן הם מרים, החיוכים שלהן מאיימים לנשוך. הנמלים חרדות מהראשים הרוכנים מעליהן. אולי הן שומעות את רעם העיניים הממצמצות, וכמוני מנסות להסדיר נשימה לקראת הסערה. מטר הכינים הוא הכבש לעולה. אריה צמר לבן טבוע על גופי, צפון מפני הנצח, גפיו טובעות גם הן בעומק כיסי הג'ינס שלי, תלאי נצח. פרחים צומחים על לחיי יחד עם שערותיי המלבינות. מה הן יודעות על הכליות ועל הכבד שלנו אם הן מסתכלות עלינו? מה הן יודעות על הכתיבה שלנו ועל המחלוקות שלנו, על הנוירוזות שלנו ועל ההורמונים שלנו, על החומר השחור שבנו ועל הקשרים שלנו? מה הן יודעות? הנמלים באורנו. So this poem deals with another main subject in your poetry, which is motherhood. And I want to ask, because in the Israeli or Hebrew poetry, this presence of mother-child relationship from the point of view of mother is quite new, quite recent. And I want to ask, is it also a new source of poetry in France? And does it take courage to write about this kind of relationship?
Yes, it is new. It is very new, especially speaking from the point of view of the sexualized body of the mother. Yes, there are some mother poets that speaks about their kids and the motherhood, like Estelle Fenzi. She wrote this amazing book called Mère, Mother. There is also one more called Victoire de Changy. That's her name. I don't recall La pomme plus grande que la mienne, which is more like Estelle Fenzi lost a child. So she talks about her child, the one that is still living, but while she's remembering the other one. There is also Sonda Voika that talks about her daughter and also maternity. And like she lost her daughter also, so she speaks about this interrupted maternity. And yes, and I speak more about like this sexualized body of a mother. In that poem, I try also to change perspective. Like I try to, because my kid can sometimes be as terrifying as like their own heads look into the little ants, you know. Sometimes when I'm trying to relax and that they come like this, you know, on this long chair where I am lying, and with their heads, like they look huge and big. So I feel like a little ant and terrified, like, oh, what do you want again? Let me live.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, so from that I go also to this like little ants and try to imagine how they look to us, how they see us as human beings, if they like see us like entities, like forms, or if we look infinite to them because we are too big that what they can see, you know. And also my kids has this like theories about divinities or things like that. They all the time they ask me, if when they don't ask, they just say, Mom, we are like really small beings, and there are like these huge giants that's living among us, and we don't see them because they're too big. So I thought about that while reading that poem, like this ant point of view, that maybe ants look at us like some abstract, you know, forms of life that can smash them or like help them cross like this little flake sometimes on a leaf.
And I think there's also throughout the book a strong sense of feminine partnerships between the generations of women in the family and in general. And is this, in your eyes, some kind of answer or a reaction to the external world that is the one of rulers and slaves?
Actually, I'm not sure I understand fully the question, but I can try to answer anyway.
Just answer as you understand it.
Okay. Je sais pas. I think that's one of the main things that I really that was like the most biggest feeling when I became a mother, when I was pregnant, is that I had this like body transforming and looking more and more like the bodies of all my aunts and my grandma, you know. So I felt that I was a more part of this like long line of women, you know, like a vertical line. Like, so I felt like very attached to my even, you know, grandmas and grandmas that I never knew, but I really felt them in my body as if we were sharing like a same body, you know. So I really think that's it's not anodin, it's not a detail. I think that there's like this strong line, like vertical line between women, and then a horizontal one, like when we speak about sisterhood, like in feminism, for example. And now I'm lost because I really think I did not understand the question.
No, you answered it perfectly. So we don't have
you know, like this belonging to this womanhood. Like I really felt it in the ass, you know, because when I started, you know, I was in the 8th and 9th month of like pregnancy. It was like very imposing, like these sculptures we can see sometimes from ancient like sculptures with this huge back, like the déesses callipyges, like these callipyge divinities. So I felt that there was something maybe that is that says something about our humanity.
So I see there are some questions in the chat. I think we will leave it to the end. We will leave 5 minutes for questions. So we don't have much time left. So let's read another poem.
Septième quatrain de l'All Inclusive. Tout est joli dans un corps qui va bien, qui porte ses dents pour rire et ainsi prouver son sérieux. Il et elle sont dans l'eau comme dans le ventre premier. Le lien est visible, ainsi que cette fleur déposée sur mon nombril par l'une de mes filles. Je peux décorer ton ventre, me dit-elle, quand elle dépose cette fleur qui vaut 1000. Excepté dans le désert où la dune et le silence raccommodent tout aussi bien, racontent tout aussi bien l'essentiel. Comment vit-on éloigné des eaux?
הכל יפה בגוף שמתפקד היטב, שמצויד בשיניים כדי לצחוק, ומציג רצינות. הם והן בתוך המים כמו בתוך הבטן הראשיתית. החיבור ניכר כמו הפרח הזה על הפופיק שלי, שהניחה אחת מבנותיי. אפשר לקשט לך את הבטן, היא אמרה, כשהניחה עליי את הפרח יקר הערך. לבד במדבר, הדיונה והדממה מרפים באורח דומה, מספרים באורח דומה את שורש הדברים. איך חיים רחוק ממים. So I wanted to ask, this poem presents both desert and water as healing or comforting forces. I don't know if you agree with me. And not at first when I read it, but as I translated it, I thought that maybe these two forces of nature represent in some way the two countries that you live between. The country that is your homeland in Morocco and your new home in France.
It's the country that where I come from, and also I spent like many time in my childhood in the south of Morocco, which is very desertic. Like there is like, you know, dunes and deserts and deserts. So I'm very attached to that, and I find some very authentic peace in these paysage landscapes. And the water is like the water of the origin. For me, the water is something very important. I'm not speaking about the fact that we need that to live and like to drink it, but the fact that we come from water, and we are water, and we are fluids, and so that's why, you know, water is so important. I really think that the théorie de l'évolution has something solid somewhere, and so that's why in another poem in that same book I speak about like how we get out from water, because like some scientists have this hypothesis that all the living life started in water, and then we get out from water. But it's also like when we are born, you know, we live in water, and then we get out from that water, like the liquid amniotic.
Okay. I want to use the time that we have left to read another poem, the next one, which I love.
10e quatrain de l'All Inclusive. On a baissé les stores, que les verres et les serviettes ne s'envolent pas avec le vin. Je suis bien assise sur mes cuisses. Mon sexe s'est rapproché de mon anus, dans la douleur comme dans le plaisir. Les plats se suivent et, bien que variés, se ressemblent. La conversation, elle, c'est elle qui donne le goût, si elle est menée à la baguette. Mais ici, et depuis longtemps, le pain est mal cuit, trop ou pas assez. On ne maîtrise plus le feu, on a perdu la main. La cuisine est sans main et les recettes se succèdent sans succès. Si l'on trouve le champagne trop cher, refuse-t-on la joie ou refuse-t-on le discours?
סגרנו את התריסים כדי שהכוסות והמפיות לא יעופו עם הרוח. אני יושבת יפה על הישבן, איבר המין צמוד לפי הטבעת, בכאב כמו בעונג. המנות מגיעות בזו אחר זו, מגוונות ודומות. השיחה זאת השיחה שנותנת טעם, אם אינה מתפוררת. אבל כאן, וכבר זמן רב, הלחם לא נאפה היטב. יותר מדי או לא מספיק, איבדנו שליטה על החום, איבדנו את המגע. הטבח איבד את המגע, והמתכונים צולחים לצלחת בלי הצלחה. אם נמצא שמפניה יקרה מדי, האם נסרב לטיפה של הנאה, או שנסרב לטיפה של פטפוט? So the last question on my part, and then we'll move on to audience questions. I want to ask about this poem that I love. I think it also continues a long tradition, French tradition, which is to critique or even make fun of the bourgeoisie and the behavior and manners that comes along with this class. And I think in the French tradition, often the place or the status of the poet is the one that is kind of a prophet that mocks the middle class or the bourgeoisie. We know the cursed poets like Verlaine, Rimbaud, Baudelaire, and nowadays even Houellebecq that maybe represent this place of a poet. Do you see yourself as part of that tradition or in some way?
I think it's, I'm not part of this tradition. I just have like the same way of living as the other poets, you know, like you earn so some little money. So at some point you are part of some social class. So you watch the other ones, like you have this almost the same point of view as the others. Houellebecq, it's I don't feel part of the same class as Houellebecq because Houellebecq is now a millionaire. He has like so much money. So maybe in his beginnings. Yes, I think it's this point of view that is given by your position in life more than a tradition.
Okay. So, Atara, you wanna, or Gilad, who's asking the questions from the audience in the time we have left?
I can ask. There is one question about the gap between the French culture and the Moroccan culture, if it has anything to do with her poems, like if she has poems that that's their topic. You mentioned it like a little bit before, but maybe
the topics. Sorry, the topics that the different
about immigration and the gap between the French culture and the Moroccan culture.
Actually, there are many, but I'm just starting to see them. When I came first to France, I thought it was the same. Maybe I'm slow, but I came into France thinking that I know everything about France because I read about France. I read French poets and I read French novelists when I was young, and I saw French movies. So I thought that I know this, you know, country and the codes and the creative codes, etc. But when I came, I realized that it's quite different. And that's what I know from France, and is the point of view of artists and poets and writers that are not even French in the first place, you know, like Picasso is Spanish. I loved Chaim Soutine, I loved Modigliani, like there were Italians, they're from Romania, they were from Spain, and so I like my vision of France was totally not just, not precise. So now I'm starting to understand the differences, but then yes, I think the topics are a bit the same, because also encore une fois, it's a matter of who we are and from where we speak. And I'm a cisgendered woman. I'm a mother now. I came from a country to another country. And in Morocco, there are like many women that are my age, cisgendered, and that have the same point of view, the same struggles. We also have migration in Morocco, like people come in to live in the country and people go in, flee in the country. So these are like universal topics, you know, like the relation we can have with one's body, with our countries, what do we expect, what do we wish for ourselves and for our future and for our now. I don't know if I answered that question, but
It was
You
perfect.
answered it. We have another last question.
Yes, we have a question. Do you write in Arabic as well?
very little. Very little. I started very lately, and I started like writing poems in Arabic like 2 years ago in Netherlands, because there in Morocco the teaching of Arabic is very intimidating, actually. You know, it's like a sacred language. It's the language of the Quran, you know. So like you grow with that respect for this language that I did not even imagine myself like playing with words to make poetry, because I like to, you know, play with words and be free in the language. There was like this Roman philosopher that wrote a critique about my former book. And she's got a point, because she said that I have a complicated relationship with Arabic, because it's not the mother tongue, but the tongue of the father. It's the language of the father, like the patriarch. And I think she's got a point there. She pointed something. Yeah, so the first time I could write in Arabic, I was not in a country that has nothing to do, you know, almost nothing to do with Arabic. But yeah, I feel that at some point I will, you know, write more in Arabic.
Okay, Reem, so I really want to thank you. This was so interesting, and I really enjoyed your book and the opportunity to translate some of the poems. I have so many other questions, but we're running out of time. But I really think this is such a smart and interesting book, and such as you. It was such a pleasure to talk with you. And the next thing is to bring you to Israel, I think, for a visit.
With pleasure. Thank you for hosting me. It's a great pleasure and honor. Thank you.
I wish to thank you, Rotem. I wish to thank you, Reem. And just to say to this critic that in the day and age of unisex, you know, France could be a mother and a father. And, you know, you can be free, you know, to change the sex as you go along, you know. And I want to invite you all to the next event that will be in the 9 o'clock Israel time. Meran Selgov will host Chris Abani. And that will be the last event that will close the festival. So at this time, I want to also thank Noah and Atar and Ayelet Ashachar and Aviv and Shirley Itzhaki, the PR. And always, you know, it's good to thank God. He's in charge anyway. And so let's have a short break until we come back for more poetry. And again, I want to thank you again, Reem, for this really beautiful talk, these beautiful poems. And Rotem will be in contact with you, hopefully, for publishing them in some anthology or magazine in Israel. But that will be later on, after we see what goes on in the elections. No, I'm just kidding. So we'll take a break. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Reem.